Morning team, I survived. I'm not brown bread, thank you for the well wishes. I'm out the other side of things now, feeling a lot better. You can probably still hear I've still got a little bit of a cough going on, but that'll be alright. And yeah, so everything is temporary, all suffering, all pain of body or brain is temporary, and here we are out the other side of things. Thank you again to all the well wishers. And let's get into it right here. I had a fantastic couple of questions from a subscriber, and I wanted to do a video on each of these questions because each question is fantastic and is definitely deserving of its own video. If you're new to me and new to the channel, just to give a bit of background right here, I recovered from alcoholism, severe alcoholism. I recovered from mental health disorders, anxiety and depression, and recovered from obesity as well. So that's the predominant that's what my channel is all about, and every now and then I get a good question come in and I will answer that question. I welcome all questions. If you have questions for me, please keep them coming. I'll do my best to answer them. Obviously I can only give my background and what I think is important, but it's always very interesting to hear other people's perspectives, and then I can assess something maybe I've overlooked that I've maybe found a little easier than some, and it's something that somebody else might be struggling with a little bit, and so maybe I can give a little bit of advice and guidance on that area. But without questions coming in, I only focus on the things that I consider important, that I found the most difficult, and that might not be as useful to other people. So here we are. Let me just get straight on into this one right here, and I'm just going to read this question out verbatim because it's very well written. Hey Corin, I love your candid approach to your videos, and so I had a couple of requests for videos. Firstly, I had to look up what candid meant, and thank you very much. Yes, I tried to keep them candid, thank you. So, question 1, and I'll do question 2 in another video. Question 1. As a 120 kg, 40 plus year old dude, I'm having trouble figuring out how to make major changes: alcohol, diet, exercise, self-care. Because the friends I have all drink a lot, and it's just habitual at this point and hard to escape. How did you manage to do this? Did you have to just abandon some or all of your friends? Is it right or wrong to leave friends because we cannot escape alcoholism without doing that? Should we be stronger and able to say no when pressured, instead of essentially blaming them by choosing to avoid them? Fantastic question, and I will answer this in stages because there are various stages to the question. So this is a very common question, and it's a barrier that I come up against in the people that I work with who are trying to cease drinking alcohol. It's one of the first ones that people query and people want to get some understanding on, and it belongs to a broader set of questions that anyone will face in the early parts of sobriety. And you find very quickly that actually it's not that big a deal at all. Now, this is not to minimize or dismiss the psychological suffering that rises as a result of these questions. I understand it feels very real and feels like a huge barrier, and what am I going to do? But ultimately, it's not actually that big a deal. Your addiction or your habit, the alcohol itself, is making out like it's a much bigger deal than it actually is. And there are loads and loads of questions like this that you simply come to realize, oh, it's just the addiction trying to gain a foothold, trying to just open the door a little bit, and your addiction will drive a bus through that inch that it manages to open in that door. We need to keep that door closed. Before answering fully, I recovered by reading a book called Rational Recovery, and within this book called Rational Recovery, there is a method called AVRT, which is Addictive Voice Recognition Technique, and this book answers all of these questions far better than I could on a video, but maybe I can give my personal experience and personal account with this. But I have done a longer form video on AVRT itself. I would recommend going and checking that one out, because in that one I lay out exactly how it is, and the book does a really good job of this also. But let's get specific with this. So, as I say, this is part of a broader set of questions that begin in early sobriety and actually prevent a lot of people from even trying to get sober in the first place, because they think, but all my friends drink. I mean, I can't just walk away from my social life. Another common one is, yeah, but what about birthdays, or what about Christmas, or what do I do if I'm low or depressed? I've been using alcohol as like a medication for that. And what about the future? I can say I'm sober today, but what about the future? All of this set of questions that very rapidly, once you get it, once it clicks, you realize, oh, it's not that big a deal at all. The only important thing really is to not drink. That's it. And that should be the priority number one, because you'll realize that all of these questions that arise will dissolve when you just simply take the priority up to, I'm just not going to drink, regardless of what's going on around me, what's going on externally or internally. The decision I'm going to make is not to drink. So what does it matter if your friends drink? It really doesn't matter at all. It doesn't matter whatever the situation is. This is where your freedom and your liberation comes from, is the recognition that it's got nothing to do with the outside world. Absolutely nothing. It doesn't matter what is going on externally or even internally in your mind. The decision is the same. I'm just not going to drink. You make that decision, and who cares about what happens as a result of that? You just make that decision and see what happens, and you will quickly see that these issues that have risen up in your mind is not actually you, it's the addiction that's trying to question and doubt your decision. But if you've made that decision to stop drinking, then it really doesn't make any difference at all what's going on externally or internally. But that resistance that we feel, this questioning that we feel, is the addiction. So I'm having trouble figuring out how to make major changes: alcohol, diet, exercise, self-care. So firstly, fantastic. You've decided that you're going to start moving in a different direction. That's absolutely amazing. How to make those changes? Well, actually, of all of those, diet, exercise, and self-care, alcohol's the easy one, because you don't have to drink at all. So just stop drinking. It's as simple as that. Because the friends I have all drink a lot. Okay. So that's them. And I understand there is this feeling of social pressure when other people are doing something, that you feel this pressure to do it yourself. But it's that old thing of, well, if everybody jumped off a cliff, would you go and jump off a cliff? Of course you wouldn't. It's just habitual at this point and hard to escape. Your addiction is making it feel like it's hard to escape. In reality, there is nothing to escape. There is nothing to escape. It feels that way. And believe, I've been through this, okay? I'm not trying to say that it was easy. But once I came to the understanding and recognition that there's no real actual issue at all, it's just the addiction making you feel like there's an issue. Once I came to that understanding, it all became incredibly simple and very easy. So it's just habitual at this point and hard to escape. It's not hard to escape. How can it be hard to not do something? If that sounds too simple, that's because your addiction is trying to make it feel, and your addiction is probably quite angry at me for just saying that. But how can it be hard to not do something? If I put a bottle of bleach on the counter and said, right, don't drink any of that bleach, that's your challenge for today, just don't drink any of that bleach, would you be like, ooh, yeah, but what if I forget? What if I feel like it? What if I just grab it? What if I just do it? What if my friends drink the bleach? Won't I do it as well? No, of course not. because you've decided that would be a stupid idea. And it's exactly the same with this. It's not hard to not do something when you recognize just how dangerous it is. Not even that, when you just make the decision, then it's not hard to figure these things out once you have made that decision. I understand how hard it can feel, but you've made a decision to save your own life here. You've made a decision to do something good for you, to be healthier and happier. So there's no, this back and forth is between you and your addiction. That's what's happening. How did you manage to do this? I'll answer those two together. So how did you manage to do this? Did you have to just abandon some or all of your friends? No. I haven't had to lose a single friend. Not one. I haven't had to lose one friend in dropping alcoholism. Why? Because, well, let's look at this. Think of, as a little exercise here, imagine your best friend, somebody you deeply care for, somebody you love. Imagine that person comes to you and says, look, I have a problem with alcohol and I'm going to stop drinking. I've made a decision to stop drinking because I have a problem. What are your feelings towards that? This is your best friend saying this. I have a problem with alcohol and I'm going to stop. Do you feel angry towards them? Do you feel resentful towards them? Do you feel like you want to just cut them out of your life completely? Of course not. You would feel proud of them. You would feel love towards them. You would feel compassion for what they've decided to do. Why do you think that if you came to your friends and said, I've decided to stop drinking alcohol, that that's how they'd respond? They're not going to cut you out. If anybody takes issue with the fact that you've decided to stop drinking alcohol, then they are not your friends anyway. The people who you hang around with and your shared interest is just alcohol. This is what's something you can ask yourself. Would I still be hanging out with these people if there was no alcohol involved? Would you still be hanging out with those people? Do you have shared interests outside of alcohol? Because if not, then it's most likely they're not actually friends. You're just part of the same drinking club. That's your shared interest is alcohol. You've decided not to drink, so let's get rid of the alcohol, and your true friends will remain. They're not going to be angry, they're not going to be resentful. A lot of the times we feel that there's going to be this certain response, or there's going to be a certain backlash against you making this decision. But test that out. See what happens. These are your friends. You shouldn't be worried about how they're going to react. Around friends, we should be free. We should feel free and empowered and liberated around people that we love, that we respect, and hopefully we get that love and respect in return. So if you were to go to your friend and say, look, I think I've got a problem. No, I have got a problem and I've decided to stop. Your good friends will support you in that. So I haven't lost a single friend. Are there acquaintances who are part of the same drinking club that I lost? Absolutely. Because they're not interested in Corin Bryant. They're not interested in being friends with me. They're interested in having somebody to drink with. But there wasn't many of those. Even the people who I drank a great deal with, I'm still friends with today. Now, most of them continue to drink, but that's got nothing to do with me. That's their business. It has absolutely nothing to do with me. And some of even my closest friends, who they were big drinkers, as well as, and I was a big drinker, and later on, years down the line, I'll get a message that say, Corin, have you got any tips? Because I think I've got a bit of an issue with alcohol, and I'm thinking of stopping. And I've had that quite a few times. So you never know how it's going to come full circle. But so no, essentially I haven't had to just leave or abandon any of my friends. There are some acquaintances who are part of the same drinking hobby that we were all a part of, that yes, you know, if they're not with you, then they're not with you, are they? They're not real friends. It's not a big deal to walk away from certain activities that are causing you harm. It's just not a big deal. Did you have to just abandon some or all of your friends? No. You'll very quickly realise whenever you set about to try and change your life for the better, you will very quickly realise who is a friend and who is not. It goes to say it's family and friends. I'm sad to even say it, but it's true. When you start stepping up, when you start losing some weight, you start hitting the gym, you start deciding to do something better in your life. Oh, I want to aim for a bit better. I want to aim for higher. I want to get a better job. I want to be in better health. I want to stop these bad habits. You'll notice there's a lot of people who try and squash that. They try and push that down. Like, oh, what? Like, oh, really? Like, oh, do you really need to do all of that? Like, oh, I think you're okay as you are. It's like, hang on, sorry, I thought you were my friend. I'm trying to improve my life here. There's a few people like that, and they just disappear. You won't see them or be aware of them for much longer. And the good friends, if anything, are inspired by what you're doing. I've had a lot of people who message and say, I'm inspired by what you're doing. I feel like I need to lose some weight. I've taken a look at my alcohol consumption. I feel like what you're doing has inspired me to change. That's how it should work in a friendship group. Is it right or wrong to leave friends because we cannot escape alcoholism without doing that? You see, I can really feel that you're earnest about this, and I can really feel from your message you are very sincere in you wanting to change. I can really feel that. And you're asking the right questions. You're asking the right questions, but this ultimately comes down to the burden of personal responsibility. Is it right or wrong to leave friends because we cannot escape alcoholism without doing that? The key word is friends. Actually, rewind a little bit. You can escape alcoholism regardless of the people you're around, the situation you're around. You are completely empowered at any moment to simply cease drinking alcohol at any moment, okay? So it doesn't matter who is around you or what they're doing, it just doesn't matter. Is it right or wrong to leave friends because we cannot escape alcoholism without doing that? You can do that. It's as simple as that on that one. Is it wrong to leave? Let's say you've got your best friend is really into alcohol and drinks a lot, and you say, look, I'm going to stop drinking now. And they keep trying to pressure you into drinking. They keep trying to get you back into drinking. That's not a friend. That's not a friend. And it is right, then, in that scenario, it is right to move on from people who do not want the best for you. So language is important when we're dealing with the addiction, because it's trying to find an inch. It's trying to gain, there's a sense of this like moral obligation. Yeah, but you need to drink because your friends drink, and it's not right to leave friends. What? If you start to really pick it apart, that doesn't make any sense. If you want to cease an alcohol addiction, anyone who sticks by you is a friend. Anyone who's trying to pressure you into going back to your addiction is an enemy. And you don't give them many chances. If somebody tries to pressure you into drinking, you say, I'm really sorry. This is really important to me. I can't drink. I choose not to drink. If they say, oh yeah, but go on, then if they keep pressuring, they have got to go, because they have got an ulterior agenda and an ulterior motive. You cannot waste any of your energy in this. Don't waste your time and energy dealing with people who do not want the best for you. You are completely free to pick up and move on from the people who do not want the best for you. Should we be stronger and able to say no when pressured? Yes, that's exactly right. Able to say no when pressured. Absolutely. When pressured, it doesn't matter. You will not pressure me into it. You could put a can of cider in front of me now and say, drink that and I'll give you £1,000,000. And I'd say, absolutely not. Not a chance. No. No, I'm not doing it. You could put a gun to my head and say, drink the cider, or I'm going to put a bullet through your head. I'd say, give me the bullet. That is the level of strength that you need. That is the line that you have drawn in the sand. No, I am not doing this anymore. This horrible, nasty, humiliating, painful addiction. It's got to stop now. And if anyone starts to try and pressure you into it, sometimes quite aggressively, you have to draw that line in the sand and say, get out of here. I am not interested in having you in my life anymore. Obviously, that's the right thing to do. Why would you drink in order to impress somebody else, in order to belong to somebody else, in order to fit in? Why would you do that? Instead of essentially blaming them by choosing to avoid them. Okay, that's the addictive voice coming in there. Instead of essentially blaming them by choosing to avoid them. No, choosing to avoid them is you standing up and saying, I know that being around certain people makes it harder for me to stay in my sobriety. But actually, what you're saying there, okay, I get that, actually, and there's some of that is right, instead of essentially blaming them by choosing to avoid them, because the implication there, yes, you're right. So the implication there is that I must avoid these people in order to not drink, which is saying, yeah, so it's their fault that I drink. No, so you are quite right in taking that responsibility on board and saying, actually, my alcohol is my problem. It's nothing to do with anyone else. It's my problem. But if you really take that on board, it's my issue, alcohol, then you're not worried about what anyone else is doing or saying. In my recovery and my sobriety, I remember a big shift happened. Like, I used to say, so I'd go out for a walk, but I'd be like, ooh, but I'm going to avoid going near off licenses just in case I'm triggered and decide to go in and decide to buy this alcohol and decide to buy it. Like, ooh, so I'd better avoid walking by off licenses. And then a massive recognition came, just hit me like a bolt out of the blue. I thought, what's that got to do with anything? What does it matter if I'm walking by an off license? The control is always in my hands. What if? Like, there's so much. Your addiction loves what if. What if? What if? What if I stop drinking and I lose all of my friends? What if? But what about this? But what about that? Just drop all of that. Drop the what ifs, drop the buts, and just do it. Just decide to stop drinking alcohol. And then recognize that any resistance, any questioning, yeah, but what about this? What about that comes up? All of that is the addiction. It is, you can now see it so clearly held up to the light. I can now see the habit. I can see the addiction trying to create doubt, trying to create worry, trying to create obstacles, trying to create barriers. There aren't any. There aren't any. There are no barriers to your freedom. You simply decide. It's as simple as that. There's no buts, there's no what ifs, there's no but what abouts, but what about this scenario? What about that scenario? What about this person? What about that person? It's all a load of rubbish. Rubbish. And I understand how difficult and confusing it can feel, but it's not true. It's just a thought. It's just a feeling. The addiction cannot take control of your hand and make you drink. It can't do it. If you've decided to drink again, it's because you chose to. I understand it doesn't always feel that way, but that's the truth. I'm sorry if some of this has come across like tough love, but you can probably feel the passion that I approach this from, because I had to apply this same tough love to myself. And the essence of the question is, if it's me and my problem with alcohol, should I be leaving? I feel like I'm going to lose friends, and that doesn't seem right to me, to lose friends because I've decided to quit alcohol. So the question is coming from the right place, and your understanding already, I can tell from the way you've worded it, your understanding is very good. Instead of essentially blaming them when choosing to avoid them, you've got good understanding there. Because yes, I feel like if I leave my friendship group, I'm implying that they're the problem, and they're not. So that's good. That's a good recognition. Choosing to move on from people who don't want the best for you is one of the most powerful and one of the most difficult things that you can do in personal development and recovery. It just gets easier. It just gets easier, and you start to recognize it very quickly in people. You don't keep giving your energy and time and attention and love out so quickly to people who that you feel like you're not getting. You want to spend your life around people who prop you up. It's not to take their energy, but if their energy resonates with your energy, it creates more than the sum of its parts. And you will be pleasantly surprised. You will be so pleasantly surprised. Talk to your good friends. Talk to the good friends first, really close, and say, look, I've decided to stop drinking alcohol. And just watch the response. Watch what happens. You will be stunned. I thought I had all of this, and I thought, oh God, even like there's this sense of people are going to be mad at me. And then the more I spoke about it to people, the more they said, oh, good for you. Good for you. Some of them are even like, finally, Corin, it's like pretty obvious you've got an alcohol problem. You're drinking like 20 cans of cider a day. Yes, maybe it is time you knock it on the old head. The vast majority of people will not question you, and they will not try to talk you out of it. Good friends stick around and will try to support you. Just the last little thing here, the caveat here is don't try to convince other people to stop as well. That does not work. That doesn't work. You focus on you focus on improving your life, and it will naturally improve the lives of those around you. You're going to want to, because when you feel the benefits of stopping drinking, you're going to want to get all your friends involved. You're going to want to say, hey, there's this amazing thing that I found. You can be happy. You can be happy and free and full of health and life and vibrance, and all you have to do is stop drinking. If you start saying that to people, you will very quickly come up against their addictions. And boy, can that get nasty. Boy, can that get nasty. So you focus on you, and you deal with your own addiction. It's a great question. It is a great question, and I wish you all the luck in the world, but just practice your wisdom. Practice your wisdom and serenity, and practice your just love. It all has to come from love. It has to come from love towards yourself, love towards others, and the business of drinking and alcohol is quite it's a nasty business and a nasty substance. But when you become sober and just fill with love and compassion for yourself and for others, you'll notice that this alcohol just starts to diminish. It's not the big deal that it pretends to be. It's not the big deal that it pretends to be. I hope I've answered your question. This is why I don't answer many questions on, or I don't do many videos, I don't do many videos on alcoholism, because it's so simple. There's not much to say, really. It's so simple, but it has the potential to be it can feel offensive, or it can feel aggressive, because it literally is as simple as you just stop drinking. That's everything. That'll do. As always, team, as always, you still